and I'm going to tell you a story about two families in Alabama. The first is about a woman who cannot conceive and went to a fertility clinic to get IVF treatment. They retrieved her embryos, allowing her to become pregnant and even have a child. The extra embryos were housed at the clinic, but a man went into the cryopreservation tank to take them out, burned his hand, and dropped the embryos, ruining her chances of ever becoming pregnant again. The other is about a woman who is successful with IVF. She had multiple kids, her embryos that were left were successfully cared for and stored, and she even had another chance at having a child. You may be wondering what this has to do with you. Well, the first story is real life and actually happened to a woman in Alabama. The court case opened in Alabama and caused debate on IVF in clinics. Understanding it will help you later in life, as IVF comes with pros and cons and ultimately is a decision families have to make, especially with this case and the extra information that comes with it. There are extra things that you have to consider. Someone in my family is actually dealing with fertility issues and is considering IVFs. I'm going to hit a few main points in this speech. The first one, I'm going to discuss the case and the ruling, what it means for Alabama and the families that are affected. Then I'm going to give you a few pros and reasons that it can help families. With pros come cons, and I'm going to state just a few cons and how it can negatively affect women and their families. The Supreme Court ruled the embryos are considered children. Runners.com is a website giving facts about this case, and they stated that the plaintiffs from the case were 3 couples from Alabama. They underwent IVF, wanted to have children, and even had healthy children from this. The Center of Reproductive Medicine states that IVF success rate in Alabama is higher than the U.S. average. IVF is in vitro fertilization. It is a procedure where you remove eggs from your ovaries. The eggs are then fertilized with sperm, and once fertilized, they are put back into the uterus. These couples did not use all their eggs, so they kept some stored at the clinic. In December of 2020, a patient entered the unit, opened the tank, but with sub-freezing temperatures, burned his hand and destroyed the embryos. With this backstory, now I'm going to inform you on the lawsuits and the later rulings of the case. The couples with the destroyed embryos filed lawsuits against the clinic. The first one was for negligence and no care for the possible negative things that could have happened to the embryos. The other lawsuit was for the Wrongful Death of Minors Act. When taken to trial court, the case was dismissed because no Alabama law said that embryos are living children. However, the case was appealed to the Alabama Supreme Court. It was overturned. They overturned the dismissal. They said that the Wrongful Death of Minors Act does actually apply. They determined that this act applies to all unborn children, no matter the location, whether that's uterus or tank. Families won the case and proved that the wrongful death of their children was something to be brought attention to. I've given you a few details on the case involving IVF and the embryos, and now I'm going to provide you some details about the good of IVF. First, it's a good option when other things have failed. People try other things, but they are not always as reliable or available. IVF is proven to work when other things do not. You can also use donated egg and sperm with IVF. This can be recommended from a doctor. It can be for health and genetic reasons. It can even help with probability of pregnancies, things like that. When families need extra options for sperm and eggs, IVF allows a different route. You can also have control over your time frame. When you want to start a family, it determines when you want to start a family, how many children you can have. Some patients have other factors that cause them not to be able to start a family at specific times. But IVF allows you to store and keep your eggs until they're ready to be used. Families are also allowed to determine the space between their pregnancies. IVF can also increase the chance of having a healthy baby. North California Fertility Medical Center produced an article saying that they do genetic screening to check egg and sperm. These tests allow families to see if there's any genetic problems that could affect the child. They can then choose to use donated sperm based on the conclusion. Without this, families could go into the pregnancy with elevated risk. While IVF has many pros, there are also a few negative things that need to be brought to light. The first thing is side effects. The National Health Service stated that women can react to the medicine used in IVF in many ways, and they can have many different symptoms. Hot flashes, mood swings, headaches, tiredness, edginess, and even OHSS. This can get worse, these symptoms can get worse and even can cause death. The second thing is that you cannot always control the amount of kids at one time. With fertility and implantation of multiple embryos, you have an increased chance of a woman having twins, triplets, or even more. This can be damaging for families who cannot financially support more than one kid. It can also have risk with having more than one child. It can cause a strain on pregnancy and women. It can lead to major complications. There's a higher chance of miscarriage, gestational diabetes, C-section, and heavy bleeding. Children may not be born at the right time and can have a problem with health and development. IVF can also lead to ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. OHS is when the body has exaggerated response to hormones. The body can be very sensitive to fertility medicine that you're required to take and to increase egg production. When too many eggs develop, women can experience pain and increase in the growth of ovaries. There are many cases in which OHSS can be deadly. IVF can lead to ectopic pregnancy also. This is when an embryo is implanted in the uterus, falls into the fallopian tube rather than the womb. The woman could lose a child and even experience symptoms herself. The case in Alabama is good in understanding and good to know all the facts. IVF can help families, but it can also hurt them. It can give families a way to have children, but it is also dangerous and cannot always be healthy. You have to take in every situation and circumstance and think about the pros and cons. IVF has helped families in Alabama, but it actually ended up hurting those three. What would you do if this situation arose? Any questions?
How long does IVF take?
4 to 6 weeks. Anybody else?
Is IVF painful?
It can be depending on how your body reacts to the medicine and the procedures.